things that we have to do before us, we've got this problem with DEI and the fact that the national government has hurt us with that. So how do we fight back? And that's going to be local, guys. You've got to make sure we have Democrats in the commission. Washington County Commission. Am I not right about this? We got to have city commissioners. We need people in the school board. I'm going to introduce Sylvan, who is the chair of the Washington County Democratic Party.
Hello, Walkfest. Oh, that was a little weak. Let's try that again. Hello, Walkfest. There we are. Very nice. Dare I say, welcome to the very first international Walkfest. Thank you first. A big thank you to Terrell. I am very delighted right now to introduce our very first speaker this afternoon, Dennis Prater, right over here. So He is a leader with the UCW-CWA union, so that's the United Campus Workers, for which he's the ETSU caucus chair. And as a member of that union myself, I can say that he's working damn hard to get ETSU to be a good place for workers. He's done a lot of work related to the adjunctification of ETSU and finding for all of the folks who are instructing there who need better pay, better benefits, and really better working conditions overall, because ETSU has a long way to go in that area. He's also a leader of the Northeast Tennessee Democratic Socialists of America, and you may have seen him at a large number of festivals. He's always there providing education to the public on political matters, and it's so important to have people like Dennis fighting the good fight around, so we're delighted to have you here, Dennis. Let's give it up. Dennis Prater.
Thank you, Sylvan, and I'm glad to be here with everybody to stand alongside you in solidarity and speak on workers' rights or human rights. So, I'd like to start out with a question. What do you think is the biggest victory for labor in U.S. history? Someone said New Deal. What was another one? 5-day work week? Okay. 8-hour work day, yeah. So those are all really good ones, you know. And also I have to say that events like the strike wave of 1934 and the Flint sit-down strikes of 1937 will live in glory. But I have to still say that the victory over slavery, which involved hundreds of thousands of enslaved laborers stopping work to undermine the Confederate war machine, it remade the United States and it opened up vast new possibilities for democratic and economic rights. So that reminds us that the fight of labor has always fundamentally been a fight for basic human decency and for having a say in our own lives. So as we speak, our nation's capital is under military occupation. Masked ICE goons are kidnapping working people and taking them to concentration camps. In the 1890s, when the miners of Coal Creek, Tennessee stood against the destructive and dehumanizing practice of leasing convict labor, they showed that workers' rights are human rights. In 1968, when Martin Luther King Jr. marched with public sector sanitation workers in Memphis, that's what this shirt is about, with his Poor People's Campaign to expand civil rights to the economy, he showed and they showed that workers' rights are human rights. In 2023, Starbucks Workers United, one of the labor movement's recent bright spots, demonstrated worker power by going on strike for pride representation in what the AFL-CIO Pride at Work director called one of the queerest union campaigns I've ever seen. they show that queer and trans rights are workers' rights. Today, when the National Labor Network for Ceasefire calls for an immediate arms embargo on Israel as a necessary step to end the genocide of Palestinians, they show that workers' rights are human rights. After decades of attacks and political misleadership, the economic standing of the working class and the labor unions who protected it have been eroded. Now, the billionaires and neo-Confederates, in their arrogance, are trying to take our political rights as well. They won't build public housing, but they will build concentration camps. They won't raise the minimum wage higher than $7.25 an hour, but they will offer ICE kidnappers massive signing bonuses. They won't fund high-speed trains or sustainable technology, but they will send endless billions to support the genocide in Gaza. There's no end to funding for ICE to kidnap babies and children, but our teachers have to buy their own school supplies. That is not thriving. We are living through a multi-causal and multifaceted crisis. Like it or not, we simply can't go back to how things were before. We have to look around at all the things that have brought us to this point and start walking towards something better. To do that, we need to build the same kind of power that built the labor movement, the power of collective action. With the Trump administration declaring its intention to violate federal worker union contracts, including the contracts of the workers who staff the VA, and with the Fifth Circuit Court siding with Elon Musk and ruling the National Labor Relations Board unconstitutional, we need to remember that there was a time before the law recognized workers' rights. Workers won rights anyway, and we will again. I invite you all to think of ways to organize where you're at. In our workplaces, our neighborhoods, and communities, there's always something that is widely and deeply felt where we can find common ground, work with other people to develop a plan to win, turn that plan into collective action. We can defeat the billionaires by finding our power in connection with each other. We can hold steady and keep showing up and regularly doing the work to sustain our movements. Now, I won't tell you it's easy, but we are not alone. There's, for example, an emergency workplace organizing committee. Their website is workerorganizing.org, and they have a hotline to help. There's the Federal Unionist Network at federalunionist.net. You can sign up for their rapid response network. There's Labor for Democracy at laborfordemocracy.org, and of course, many more. And if you work in public sector higher education in Tennessee, talk to me about United Campus Workers. We're here to build a world of well-being for all and of mutual thriving for all. Solidarity.
I am looking really forward to our next speaker. When I met Mary Grace Wooten, I was standing out in front of Marsha Blackburn's office in March, and it was cold, and I looked across, and here's Mary Grace, and I thought, wow, okay. I met her and Matthew. They're fantastic, and they are extremely active. Mary Grace grew up in the Philippines. She graduated from the University of Alaska. There is not a thing this woman cannot do. It is my great honor to introduce my very good friend and partner in crime, Mary Grace Wooten.
speech disability due to cerebral palsy. I use the AI voice, so you can understand my message easily. Terrell said that I only have 5 minutes, so maybe I can just inspire you. I do something to resist 2 or 3 days a week. Are you inspired yet? There is a joke in the disability community that we can just say, I get out every day, to tabs, temporarily able-bodied people, and they'll be inspired. Like some of you, I was lucky enough to be able to utilize diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in school. I dropped out of school in the Philippines after 5th grade because I had to have a big surgery, and it would take almost a year of physical therapy to relearn how to walk. By that time, I would be the oldest in class, which was just one more thing that made me weird, and one more thing the other children would make fun of. Besides, my teachers didn't care enough to try to make sure I was learning. I wasn't. And every year they just passed me on to the next grade without me learning hardly anything. I couldn't even read in the 5th grade. When I came to America in 1994 at age 17, my mother made me go back to school. I believe that if there were no DEI programs in the Alaska school system, I would not have been able to go back to school, graduate as the valedictorian of my high school class, and receive a full scholarship to the University of Alaska Anchorage, where I graduated with a major in and eventually moved to North Carolina, then Tennessee, where I started the Simple Elegance Bridal Show in 2016 and served for 5 years as a board member for the local business organization in Jonesboro to help our community thrive. Let's talk about the new Superman movie. How many of you have watched it? I got so excited about the movie when I heard that MAGA were losing their minds over it. They said it was too woke. I was like, what do they mean? Then when we watched the movie, I was like, what is new? I mean, Superman has always been a defender of those who are weak no matter what their circumstances or color of their skin. He has always been on the right side of history. Yes, even Dean Kane's Superman character fought the Nazis in one episode. I guess they think it is too woke because the movie made them uncomfortable. They probably identified most closely with the villain characters. They locked up aliens and people who Lex Luthor felt were his enemies. Sound familiar? Maybe they were upset the movie made fun of a character, Vasil Gurkos, who loves gold decor and all the people around him that stroke his ego. Sound familiar? Anyway, what is my point, you might ask? Superman is not real, but unfortunately there are people like the Lex Luthor and Vasil Gurkos characters. There will always be people who believe that they are better than others. They deserve more rights and all of the wealth and power. But we can't let them hold us down. We have to be our own heroes. Do whatever you can to resist this regime. Don't wait for someone to come do something for you. No one is coming to rescue us. Here in the real world, we must be our own heroes. Luckily, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can contact your congresspersons, tell them your story, tell them your life is just as valuable as theirs. Attend local protests, host a community gathering, don't buy from companies that support the Trump regime or went along with his anti-DEI, anti-women. Join small groups of like-minded individuals. Build community. Strengthen each other's resolve. To stand up for your beliefs. Run for local office and board positions. You know what you and your community needs better than many of the out-of-touch lifelong politicians and board members currently in positions of power. We can't be Superman and defeat those doing harm single-handedly. We will only be victorious if we all stand together in solidarity. So let me end with one of Superman's famous quotes. I'm here to fight for truth, justice, and the American way.
Thank you, Mary Grace. I'm Jenna. Howdy, y'all. Hey, I'm Brad Batt. It's really nice to see such a large crowd today. Hi, Kay Robbins. Kay Robbins and I, right there, Kay, in 2016, were the Tennessee 1st Congressional Delegates for Bernie Sanders. And we've been trying to tell people, haven't we, Kay? This is a great celebration of labor today, and first of all, just so you know, I'm now Vice Chair of Washington County, second Vice Chair of Washington County Democrats, and we're going to be running candidates up and down the ballot. County Commission, okay, Republicans are scared. I'm not joking. And Republican County Party's falling apart. Find me afterwards. I'll tell you all about it. You can find me at Brad Batt on social media. Also, brad.me. It's brad.me. Find me, reach out to me. You want to run, you know someone wants to run, you want to chat, you got memes, send them. Great. Back to today's celebration, Labor Day celebration. The person I'm introducing is a natural organizer and fighter for workers. She has stood up to the Johnson City Commission on the issues of Sean Williams and the police neglect and corruption.
I was wondering, since we ended up canceling our last interview, are we going to address Sean Williams, or do we want to talk about that? Or
not today, yeah, but appreciate it.
Will there be, I guess, a later day?
Yeah.
When?
That's yet to be determined. But thank you.
Okay.
A federal judge has formally approved $4.2 million in a settlement covering all women and girls who reported sexual assaults to the Johnson City Police Department in a 4-year period. That covers around 375 people. The class action suit stemmed from the 2023 lawsuit filed on behalf of alleged victims of Sean Williams, who prosecutors claim sexually assaulted more than 60 women. The city of Johnson City settled that suit separately in a nearly $24 million payout. The class settlement would leave individual settlements at around $7,000 if divided by the entire class of 375. The judge set final approval for January 6th in a hearing, that's next year, at the U.S. District Courthouse in Greenville.
She has been front and center organizing bar owners and workers against the city's surprise 1 a.m. cutoff that puts people in harm's way and takes away their income. And she's supporting those workers by helping some of them apply for unemployment because of the city's negligence in shoving this law through. So I am so impressed by her as a person, the organizing she's done, and I think you're going to be excited to hear from her today, and she can tell you everything about that organizing and where we're taking it from here. Please give a great welcome to Abigail Honeycutt.
Hello, my name is Abigail, and I am consistently mystified at the frequency I'm asked to speak publicly. I am often and never more sick in this chapter, never more sick of my own voice than I am today in this chapter. I would very much like to hear more of the stories of my girls rather than my own. I am mostly all grown up now, and I decided long ago that there is not a single system or suit or costume or uniform I had any respect for. I spent the first 18 years of my life in Carter County in school systems, and I think we can all imagine well how my insistence at questioning all of the things all of the time went down in that school system with preachers and teachers and peers. But they taught me systems, and for better or for worse, that too was a gift. They won for a while, telling me to be silent. I spent a good chunk of my teen years not speaking at all to any of them. And I learned later that the word for that is it was my first act of resistance to weaponize silence, and it drove them all completely insane. And they'd look at me and they'd ask me, what was going on, and I would say, "But you told me I talked too much." but you told me I should behave. But you told me that wasn't respectful. And with all that extra time I spent not speaking and seething as an adolescent, I planned and I plotted, and I found my way to the hospitality industry. People like Brad try to sit me down and polish me and structure me and organize me. And he asks me all the time to define what my goals are, what my mission is, who I want to be. And as recently as 15 hours ago, I sat with him, and he is an unusually and exceptional white man, very woke. And we spent 5 hours trying to define what it is I am and what it is I do. And we used really official words like labor organizer, workers' rights, unions, agitator, lawsuit winner, or my personal favorite, agent of chaos. We were sitting together on my favorite pedestal, the bench outside of Capone's, because when I yelled at the commission and I ordered them to get off their pedestal and come down there and see these girls, he heard me 6 months ago, and he came down there to spend time with me and my girls. That bench outside of Capone's is the perfect vantage point via which I survey my little queendom, and I clock into my self-assigned job duties as patron saint of brilliant to hot mess baby girl bartenders. I can see the breezeway where one of the ladies that is not housed tells me proudly, with a note of her very own disdain as she clocks into her job for the night, "I won't lay on my back to make money like the rest of them for these men. I'm an entrepreneur." She reads me tarot cards, and I write her marketing strategies. I teach her Venmo. She predicts the future, and I fret over the increased police presence downtown. But mostly I watch. While we were sitting together, Brad and I, he started to laugh at the frequency that young girls would come to me and fly into my arms to tell me their stories, their sins and their wins and their heartache, petty to profound, tragic to triumph. And Brad kept saying, "How do you know her, or her, or her?" And I kept laughing because I don't know them at all. They just fly into my arms. He said to me, "What are you? A siren's call for little girls." And I said yes. And I was quite rude to him because every important thing he tried to discuss, I shushed him to listen to them. But it's the secret language of women, and it's not even deep or as magical as it looks. It's primal to run to older women for safety when the world is too big. And they see me watching and scanning, bright-eyed and measured, and joyful but aware. I don't want to be anything organized. I want to be Carlene Claybaker when I grow up.
With the Upper Northeast Tennessee Council, affiliated with the AFL-CIO, and I think Dennis talked about this. Dennis talked about it a little bit earlier. I think it's something we need to absolutely pay attention, and the council and Ken in his work have been working hard on that, is the breakdown from the Trump administration coming on the VA. We know the VA is already underfunded. The VA was doing better under Biden, just so you know. Things were getting there. And Trump is breaking everything, and in particular labor union contracts. And that is something we need to fight for, we need to be aware of, and Ken is doing the work. So tell us more about this, and please give a round of applause to Ken. With the Upper Northeast Tennessee Council, affiliated with the AFL-CIO, and I think Dennis talked about this. Dennis talked about it a little bit earlier. I think it's something we need to absolutely pay attention, and the council and Ken in his work have been working hard on that, is the breakdown from the Trump administration coming on the VA. We know the VA is already underfunded. The VA was doing better under Biden, just so you know. Things were getting there. And Trump is breaking everything, and in particular labor union contracts. And that is something we need to fight for, we need to be aware of, and Ken is doing the work. So tell us more about this, and please give a round of applause to Ken.
good to be here. It's a great diversity of people. It's what we all need to be. America's strength is its diversity. Unions have always known that. And some people have misconceptions about the union. I'm sorry. And, but one thing you remember about the word union, the first three letters are you and I. That's all it is. It's you and I. It's all of us. And I'm a member of Pipe Fitters Local over on South Rome Street. I'm third generation. Somebody in my family's been a member of that local since 1943. And the local's been there since 1921. But we've grown a lot, we train a lot of people, and we train everybody. We don't discriminate. Everybody, if you make the effort and get the accreditation that's Department of Labor Certified Apprenticeship, you get your raises. That's all we care about. You learn, you work, and you come out debt free. We use no federal, state, or local tax money. It's all paid for by our contractors and our membership. What I can say is that Labor Day tradition brought forth by FDR and New Deal Democrats. They formed a Department of Labor, the first woman that was over federal department, Frances Perkins. And she was over the Department of Labor. Her name's still on the building right now in D.C. She was out with the workers, walking with the workers on strike. And that's just how it was. And Roosevelt gave us the National Labor Relations Act, which gave every American worker the federal right to organize and enforce a vote in their workplace. And then he created the National Labor Relations Board to enforce this. The Trump administration has basically declared the federal departments basically right to work. Right to hire, right to fire, 4 calls and no calls, right to work for less. You have to have no reason to dismiss you. He's in favor of national right to work, always has been. And of course, one of the first things that Hitler did when he came to power was bust the unions. And he took possession of their property, took possession of their monies, which is all their pensions, annuities, things like that. The Nazis took it over. If you watch Trump, to me, if you ever read Mein Kampf, he slides his playbook. That's what he's going to do. And the only way to stop him is the ballot box, if we get to go to the ballot box again. And it's like something I never thought I'd see. But it's here. And it's for real. And it's coming. It ain't going to stop till we stop it. And I just don't, I don't know what to say about some of this stuff. I've never seen it. The only way to stop him is at the ballot box. And he's already figured out ways to rig that. Gerrymandering and all that good stuff.
I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, as you probably know. And we are entitled to 5 more seats.
But the congressional map is not tied to presidential races. It's historically tied to the once-a-decade census.
But what the previous speakers have said, we need Democrats in local offices.
Yes.
County commission, city commission, school board. Yeah, we need money too. I worked in elections in Sullivan County. I live in Sullivan County. And people came up to us asking, where's the list for the Democrats? And we had no list to show. That was just terrible. They would, looking for something different. I'm also on the county equalization board, which, Washington County did this a couple of years ago when they reassessed your property. A right? And y'all got a huge property tax increase. Okay, we did the same thing. We're the board that the people, the homeowners come into, and we try to get their assessment back down, okay, to help them out. But what I know for a fact is those county commissioners were threatened day in and day out. They're all Republicans, every one of them, day in and day out to be voted out. So they're not real stable right now. And all it takes is a few good candidates, put somebody in there for the people instead of business. Thank you. 80% of county commissioners in Sullivan County own a business. They're not going to legislate for us. Sullivan County has a debt problem. Even though we got $30 million from the American Rescue Plan from Biden, they ran through that because they had to build the jail, they had to build the high school, but they've given away the store in tax tips. Pinnacle of Bristol has a tax tip to 2040. That hotel in Bristol that collapsed, they had a tax tip on it. That new car dealership, one in Kingsport City Council gave them $500,000 tax tip. So the county council gave them $500,000 tax tip to Mitch Walters, who has 6 new car dealerships in 3 states. He's a millionaire. And Rich in here put those people out of where they're living, and now they're building his new car dealership. Those tax tips were designed for small businesses, mom and pops starting out, to get them loose for a couple of years, right? So now Sullivan County not only has debt, they have loss of revenue. And it's not going to change because they all own business. So we'll put different people in there. And the thing about it, when they came in there for the assessment of the property, I'll tell you this. Some people's assessment went up 100%, some up 150%, some of them went up 300%. One person I know of, her assessment went up 15%. Horse park. Like in Sullivan County, that the high school, jail, everything, 80% of what's built there, or 75%, was built by one contractor, J.A. Street. J.A. Street's brother is the Sullivan County attorney at every meeting. It's all like this. We've got the break. But I'll leave you 2 more things like that anyway. If, as far as Labor Day tradition, the term redneck, right? That comes from this right here. Get down coal miners, that way, strike. And they all came in on flatbed cars from the railroad, from New York, Pennsylvania, and the reporter said, there's just a sea of rednecks here. So a union member is the original redneck. One more thing I'll leave you. Definition of scab. Okay, scab, if you have a union card or a union member, is a person that goes in, his sole purpose is to weaken that union or get rid of that union. And that's all his purpose. That's all reason he lives. He'll cross your picket line, he'll take your job, he'll rat you out to the boss. If he can, if he has anything. But to me, the best definition of scab is right here.
I'm feeling proud. Part of Indivisible, Teamwork, Lincoln Women Voters, Sullivan County Democrats. I am so proud to introduce the next speaker, Merritt Moore. Merritt was born in Johnson City. She worked as an underground miner in West Virginia and for the United Mine Workers of America as a journalist, photographer, and labor organizer in the historic 1989-90 Pittston strike. She led the organizing of hundreds of miners' wives and was a founding member with them of the Daughters of Mother Jones. Mary is known for her work advocating for mine safety and the rights of miners. She is the author of Women in the Mines, Stories of Life and Work, a collection of oral histories and documentary photographs of women miners across the U.S. She is active in the International Women Coal Miners Network, including England's Women Against Pit Closures. In 2023, the West Virginia Mine Wars Museum awarded her the Carter G. Woodson Truth Tellers Award for her documentary work over decades. Welcome Merritt Moore, one of the smartest women on the
Thanks, Sharon, one of my favorite activist buddies. All right, I'm so glad to follow the last speaker who talked about red bandanas. And we'll get there. I got a bunch of them for you. So what I'm talking about today is labor history. I just want to say that I'm bringing greetings from women coal miners across the United States and from the Women Against Pit Closures in England. 40 years after we got started, we're still tight with each other and we're still in the fight. My personal local fight, this is an aside, is about the takeover of our local media by what I feel is a private equity concern, which is false. The Jonesboro paper. I was working, the reason I've been in rallies, I've been working every week on long history pieces. All of a sudden, it's gone. Not only that, the editor, it's a labor issue. The guy who, kind of a hatchet man, he basically said, oh, hi, how you doing? We're taking paper over and today's your last day of work. Did that with all of them. So all I'm saying is JC Press does not have my support. They thinned out all of our news media. I grew up around here. Anyway, that's the subject. All right. Today we're going to call upon the spirit of Mother Jones. You know? All right, sorry. And I have a silly hat, okay? This is what we do with women miners. We put on our stuff, right? We have fun, okay? I'll take that. All right. Anyway, Mother Jones was a radical immigrant, Irish immigrant, who organized thousands of immigrant coal miners and workers across, of course, coal miners, but many workers. She's also involved in the Mexican Revolution. She was a hellraiser and an agitator. She said, this nation was founded on agitation. Chattel slavery was abolished by it. God grant that agitation keeps up until the last chains are broken. And she said, a man in prison, I asked him why he happened to be there. And he said, I stole a pair of shoes. And she said, if you'd stolen a railroad, you'd be a U.S. Senator. In her 70s and 80s, Mother Jones walked through creeks, over mountains to meet secretly with workers, many of them coal miners. They laid down their tools on a word from her. That is why she was jailed repeatedly. She was court-martialed, and as you may know, she was called by a judge the most dangerous woman in America. But when she was in jail one time, well, actually more than once, she'd sneak out letters, okay? And they went viral in our language. And this is one of them. She said, let the nations of the world know that the great United States is now holding Mother Jones incommunicado in an underground cell surrounded by sewer rats, tin-horn soldiers, and other vermin. She fought private armies. Sound familiar? Yes. In her time, it was Baldwin Phelps. When I was involved in strikes, the Pittston later, but also the 18 Massey strike in the mid-'80s, in Mingo County, where I worked in the mine, Mingo County, West Virginia, we saw the militarization of that community. They did it because they knew nobody was going to see it. We saw Army tanks being brought in to rural post offices that were bristling with surveillance, surveillance material. And nobody could go to the post offices because there they were. We knew it was the wave of the future. And we know military occupation is nothing new in the labor movement. In the old days, nothing new in the new days. And now we've got it coming from the White House. Mother Jones knew the power of women. You know, she lived from, really she did her work like 1890 through 1930. She started in her 60s. It's a good model for aging, okay? She worked until she was, died at 93. But she said she was 100 so she could have a birthday party. She always said she was older than she was. When she was 70, she said she was 80. When she was 80, she said she was 90. When she was 90, she said she was 100. And had a great birthday party. All right. So, she organized, what she said about women is she said, no nation has ever grown beyond its women. She organized miners' wives as well as women workers, okay? And miners' wives, she organized them into mop and broom brigades. He was talking about scabs or strikebreakers. Well, they were pouring in the mines. Workers had no rights at this point. That's why she was, and others were trying to organize the labor movement, organize unions, the United Mine Workers, and others, okay? And so these mop and broom brigades, they like up to 1,000 women would be bam, and bang, and they'd go to mine portals where strikebreakers were going in, and the women scared them to death. And it worked, okay? So in the Pittston strike, we did this too. We didn't mop and, brigades, but we did organize a lot of activist miners' wives. And the Pittston strike was based on mass civil disobedience. In many states now, it's a felony, okay? Back then, we could do it. Of course, the union got $40 million fines, but it started with the women's occupation. And when we all got together, the women, we were going to take over, occupy the headquarters in Lebanon, Virginia of the Pittston Company. In that building, also, unknown to us, in the back, were the offices of, get this word, advanced security. They were the gun thugs for Pittston, all right? And so we go in there, but the women, the wives said, they were 42, we knocked it off, 1 to 42. No names because of retaliation. So we numbered off, right? We all remember our numbers forever. Our spokesman was a miner's wife named Ellen Saul. She was daughter of Mother Jones, number 14. CNN came in that afternoon. CNN walks in, they have a photographer, a cameraman, and a reporter, and it goes up, who's your spokesman? And we're like, she is, and said, what is your name? And she said, I am the daughter of Mother Jones, number 14. And he turned off his mic, he made the guy quit filming, and he said, who is Mother Jones? So we had a history bite that we mentioned. We were very happy about that. So the red bandana, my understanding of how, from the mine workers, how it started was, Mother Jones knew about this because in 1921 there was the Battle of Blair Mountain. Have you heard about it? Yes. All right, Battle of Blair Mountain. Miners wore this as they marched south from Charleston to liberate their brothers in Mingo County from a deal with their private armies. And so it was and is a symbol of unity. it is resistance, but it's also solidarity. Because you have to have solidarity. You have to have broad solidarity. You know, maybe people you might not imagine you have common ground with. You can find common ground. You can. And so tying it on, and I've got 100 of these that will be given out if you want, but tying them on, we tie ourselves together, okay? We tie ourselves together in the struggle, in the determination, and I just want to end with her most famous words, which you may know, and if you do, just join me. Pray for the dead, fight like hell for the living. Pray for the dead,
fight like hell for the living. Pray for the dead, fight like hell for the living. Pray for the dead.
After Reverend Auckland finishes, Toby is going to lead us all in singing We Shall Overcome. And I think we shall overcome. What do you think? But Reverend Auckland is from Bristol. She is the pastor of the Household of Faith Community Church. She's been the pastor for 38 years. She's not only a pastor, she's a columnist, an advocate, entrepreneur, and a community leader. If you live in Bristol, you know Reverend Jackie Auckland. She always gives messages of hope and strength and God's love, and we're so fortunate to have her here with us today. Everybody welcome Reverend Jackie Auckland.
Hello, everybody. When she messed up what I was going to say, she messed the hell out of my message. I only have a short time. I usually don't use up all of that time, but I did want to make a correction now. As a substitute teacher, I know that my corrections don't count today. Okay, I'm just here on a substitute position. But I saw a sign, and I see signs all the time that says no key. Some of y'all know where I'm going. It says no key. But there is a key. We do have a key. And this is not churchy, and I will be churchy only, but I don't want my king to think we're talking about him. Because he does good things for me. When I was coming up, I was 68 years old, and when I was coming up in school, I had no idea back in '63 that there was a separation of people. I had no idea that we were even being treated different. I took that as though this was life, this is what life was going to be like. Fast forward, they integrated schools, and one of my teachers said while I was doing a math problem, I blame that on my reasons I can't add anything but 5 plus 5. I believe she said, move away from the board, you've been drinking muddy water. When I got to college, one of my professors helped me through that and took me all the way back to the 5th grade. Fast forward, when I got to the high school, I started to join groups that I wasn't allowed to be in, but I sort of pushed my way. One of them was Voice of Democracy. I wrote my first Voice of Democracy speech in the 9th grade, and I won, but they only gave me 4th place because I was not of color of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place. Moving forward, I moved on ready for moving into college, and I have yet today to have my guidance counselor to accept my request to talk about which college I was going to go to. It wasn't allowed. I'm raising now an 8-year-old. She's my great niece, and just this week, she was told she will get an F if she did not write Donald Trump as the answer to the question. Prior to that, I told her Whatever they try to do to keep you from getting a green light, that's just, they mark a little green on how they acted each day, how their conduct was. I said, whatever they ask you to do that's within reason, like they wouldn't let her go to the bathroom when she said she had to go. Our rule is, if you gotta go, go. And we'll take the consequences. But they had a test on Donald Trump. 4 of the kids did not write his name. They got an F for the test. My 8-year-old wrote his name and brought home a green light. We talked for 2 hours about that green light and how it was important. Whatever they try to do to our children in school, whatever they did to me, it doesn't work with all of our kids if we stick together and bring our kids into the newness of a change is going to come. A change is going to come. From our school board level to our city council's level, a change is going to come. I'm known as the cleanup woman. Whenever you need something done, come on here. You call on some of us women to come together and we can get the job done. We will get the job done. But we need all of us to come together and to stick together in whatever that we do. It's good to have these settings here, but we ought to come together at the voting rights and do what we're supposed to do by telling everybody this is the right way to do things. For all of us here. Equality and inclusion. Lastly, I have to say to you, a big corporation will not call their name because the Google got an animal there. Office Max thought it was not necessary to lift the table so that I could reach my computer. It took 2 years, but we got the victory over Office Max. Of course, they closed now, but we still got the victory. This is what democracy looks like. 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 Amen, church. Don't forget, whoever you are, wherever you are, don't forget your neighbor that's hurting. Don't forget someone that's not being included. Be a friend, be a sister, be a brother. I love y'all.